Welcome to Whispering Pines Farm's YouTube channel. My name is Jennifer Johnson and I raise Shetland sheep for their wool. In this video I'm going to be skirting a fleece from one of the ewes in our flock that's going to be going into my fleece auction, which I hold every year, and it begins June 22nd, 2024 at 6 p.m. Eastern Time. And it will run for 7 days and conclude on Saturday night, June 29th at 6 p.m. This fleece is from our ewe. Her name is Lakshmi. She's a gray catmugget ewe, and I was able to roo her fleece. Last year I didn't roo her fleece because there was just certain stuff going on that I wasn't going to have the time to roo so many sheep. I got to roo a lot of sheep this year. But I sheared her last year, so her tips may not be perfectly pristine. I actually have spun her fleece a few times because she has such a good rise. And those years where I do shear her, and I should have rooed, the fleece just does not shear well. So it ends up being really short, but her tips have this really nice coil to them. So what I would do would be spin right from the locks and preserve those curly tips, so we got a really fun, I call it a bumbly yarn, really textured and just really cool. So that's my experience with Lakshmi. And what happens with her fleece, because she's kind of an older ewe in our flock, let me see, I think she's 6, yeah. So she's more britchy than what I'm getting now with lambs. Britchy is the wool that lands right around here, kind of on the hindquarters, and it normally is the coarsest wool. I'd go so far as to say it always is the coarsest wool. And we're breeding for ewes that have a really small amount of coarser wool. Her wool does fall off right around here, and I'm not going to skirt it, and I'll tell you why. What I would do with this fleece, even though I rooed it, and it's not terribly short, there still is the opportunity to wash this and spin it from the lock. I'll try and find a video where I did this with Mrs. Hughes's fleece to get a really fun textured yarn where the little coils, the tips sort of stick out of the yarn. It just looks really whimsical and fun. But then you can use this longer, coarser britch wool, spin a real fine single, and then ply those two together. That's what I would do. One of the options with this fleece, and that's, like I said, what I have done with Lakshmi's fleece in the past. I don't see anything here I want to skirt off. I'm going to kind of keep it as is. There's a, the britch wool is pretty different from the main part of the fleece, but it also gives you this really fun, darker color. So you can get some contrast if you decide to make that bumbly yarn with the fine single being made from the longer britch wool. I'm sort of just fiddling because her fleece is just so fun. It's not real dense, it's not holding together, which is again another reason why I would do it that way. If this one doesn't sell, I'm going to do that because those bumbly yarns are kind of popular. It's just perfect for it. All right, so that is that. So her spinning fineness at 6 years is 22.7. It's really great. The coat weight, 29.7 ounces, so it's a nice size. You're going to get a lot of yarn from it. I pretty much assume everybody's making yarn when they're getting raw fleeces. I don't know that you're going to, I don't know, maybe you would. If you're a needle felter, those coiled tips are really fun for Santa beards, and here you would have one with gray for a gray-haired Santa, if that's your inclination. Okay, now we're going to split the fleece and just get a character. When you split the fleece, many times you do that when it's still on the sheep. In fact, if you do like sheep judging for wool breeds, they'll always part the fleece and look at the crimp and density and stuff. Make judgments. All right, let's get the lock sample and see what we have for a staple length here. See right here. All right, so looking at that, so normally her staple is like an inch. So looking at this, I mean, you could potentially, because her tips really aren't that bad, you could just run her on the drum carder for most of this as is. You wouldn't need to open up the tips. Some of these bits up here, like around the neck and the britch, I probably would hit with the flicker just to open up those tips a little more. You got a lot of possibilities with this one. I love that. So it's a 3-inch staple. What a good girl. She's very high-spirited, our Lakshmi. I'm going to say she's not a terrific mom. She's rejected a couple lambs, or maybe just one. She's not a terrible mother, but... And that lamb did thrive, so it's not like it was a sickly lamb or anything. I said 3 inches. I think I might have one lamb out of her here in the flock right now. So yes, let's flip the fleece over and get that very important and very exciting picture when you're looking at cat muggets, because you're getting all the shades of, oh my goodness, gosh. Oh boy, this is really fun. Now I'm thinking of gradient yarn. Where you're going to sort the locks. I did a gradient yarn. It wasn't with a cat mugget fleece, but I just did that recently. So I'm going to put a link to that if you didn't see that and you don't know what I'm talking about. It's where you take advantage of all these different shades. You flick the whole fleece. You can't start spinning until you've flicked it and sorted all these locks from light to dark, and then split those in half, spin the locks, starting with light, ending with dark. You could split that in four, here's what you could do is wash one side of the fleece and make one skein with that, and then another skein with the other side. And they might be ever so slightly different, but so that way, or you could go, from all your locks from light to dark and get an enormous skein with a really dramatic shift of color. This fleece is exciting, isn't it? Okay, let's get the picture. So as I'm getting towards the end of skirting, I'm starting to think about projects and things I want to start working on and making. And one thing I'll point out is you may notice that there's no comb top bags behind me. So this weekend I sent all my fiber to the mill because I had to make sure there was enough time so that hopefully I'll be able to get it at the Rhinebeck Fiber Festival. So all my skirtings now, I think what I'm going to do is turn them into self-striping yarn. So I'll process them myself. So right now I've got a good amount of white. So maybe it's going to just be a white skein. Who knows? We'll see. Really not going to stress out about it. But yeah, I'm starting to think about some of the other things I want to start making, and making up some bats because I'm kind of low on that. So I'm working here in my new addition to the barn. All the sheep are out on the pasture, the lambs and everybody, so I'm by myself. But it's still really nice. And it's a beautiful, cool day today. Overcast, so the sheep have been out there all day, so it's really wonderful for them. This is like the perfect day. I want to say it's probably in the low 60s right now. No wind. And it's overcast, but it's not raining. So, perfect. Very grateful for today. All right, well, let's get, I don't think I need to weigh this one either because I didn't skirt anything off of it. So that is Lakshmi. Thank you so much for stopping by. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you can come back soon.